Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're looking at some really interesting source material you sent over, excerpts from Robert Kiyosaki's books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the Cash Flow Quadrant.
That's right. Influential stuff for a lot of people.
Definitely. And our goal today really is just to unpack what's in these pages. Look at the financial ideas, the contrasts, and see what insights pop out about money, assets, and maybe building some financial freedom.
Strictly based on these sources, yeah. And what hits you first is that core setup, isn't it? The author having these two dads.
Yeah, two major influences with just completely different takes on money. His own dad, the poor dad.
Highly educated, PhD, government job, looked successful on paper.
But the source says he struggled, right? Left bills behind.
Exactly. And his advice was classic. Study hard, good grades, safe job, benefits. The traditional route.
Okay, and then there's Rich Dad, his friend's father.
Totally different story. Didn't even finish 8th grade, apparently. But becomes one of Hawaii's richest guys, leaves millions.
Wow, quite the contrast.
And his whole focus was different. Not working for money, but understanding how money itself works.
Making money work for him.
That's the fundamental split the author saw. One guy worked for it, the other learned to have it work for him. And it wasn't just luck, it was, well, their thinking.
Their whole mindset shaped their financial lives.
Which leads straight into that first lesson, when the author and his friend Mike wanted to learn about money, they were just kids.
9 years old, right? They go to Rich Dad.
And what does he do? Puts them to work in his shop for like 10 cents an hour?
10 cents. And then didn't he cut their pay altogether?
Yep. After a few weeks, 0 pay. They were furious, felt used, ready to quit.
I would be too.
But that was the point, wasn't it? Rich Dad explained it wasn't about the wage. Removing the wage forced them off the easy path.
The path of just trading time for money.
Exactly. It forced them to actually think. How else could they make money? How does money really work? He wanted them to see the trap.
The trap? What, the trap of working for a paycheck?
Yeah, the one most people fall into, according to the source. And it's driven by emotions. Fear, mainly.
Fear what? Like not paying bills?
Right. Fear of being broke, getting fired. That fear pushes you to work harder. But the book says just working harder doesn't solve the real problem.
It just quiets the fear for a bit.
Temporarily, yeah. Then desire kicks in when you get paid wanting nicer things. So you spend. And the cycle starts again. Fear, work harder, get paid, desire, spend.
Like a hamster wheel.
Pretty much. The source calls it being a slave to money, just reacting emotionally.
So Rich Dad's goal was to get them to step outside that, to master money instead of being afraid of it.
That seems to be the core of it. Avoid the trap. Learn to think.
Okay. And that thinking part, that leads to the next big lesson, right? Financial literacy.
Absolutely. Rule number 1, the source calls it.
Yeah.
And it hammers this point. Ignorance about money causes the fear and the greed.
And it criticizes schools for not teaching this stuff.
Big time. It says they teach you how to be an employee, work for money, but not how money actually functions, how to harness it.
So you could be like a doctor or lawyer, really smart, but still financially illiterate.
That's exactly the point made. Because they don't understand the other side of the coin. Which brings us to rule #1 itself.
Which is?
Know the difference between an asset and a liability. And buy assets. The source claims that's the only rule you need to get rich.
Okay, simple enough. How does it define them?
Super simple. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket.
In your pocket, out of your pocket. Got it.
Seems obvious, right? But the argument is most people struggle because they don't know this difference or they get it backwards.
How so?
They buy things they think are assets, but they're actually liabilities, like their house.
But isn't a house an asset?
Not according to this definition. If it's your primary residence with a mortgage, it takes money out every month. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, upkeep. It doesn't put money in your pocket unless, say, you're renting out part of it.
Ah, okay. So it's about the cash flow. Same with a car payment, I guess.
Exactly. Car payments, credit card debt, things that constantly drain your cash. The source shows these cash flow patterns. Poor people, money comes in, goes straight out to expenses. Right. Middle class. Money comes in, goes out to expenses, and to pay for liabilities they think are assets. Often very little left over.
Okay. And the rich?
Income comes in, a big chunk goes to buy assets. Those assets then generate more income, which buys more assets. It's a cycle of growth.
So it's not just how much you earn, but where you direct the money.
Precisely. Based on understanding that asset liability difference, Financial literacy is key.
Which connects to the next big secret, right?
Yeah.
Mind your own business.
Yes, and that Ray Kroc story illustrates it perfectly. The McDonald's guy.
Oh, yeah. Tell that one.
He's talking to MBA students, asks what business he's in. They all say hamburgers, naturally.
Makes sense.
But he says, nope, my business is real estate. Because he understood that the hamburger stands were just the mechanism, but the real wealth came from owning the valuable land they sat on.
Wow. Okay, so your job isn't your business.
Not in this context. Your profession is how you generate income. Sure, that's your income column. But your business, the source says, is your asset column, the things you own that make money for you.
And the problem is people spend their lives working for
their boss's business or the government's business through taxes or the bank's business through interest. They're not focused on building their own asset column.
So the advice isn't quit your job.
Not necessarily. It's keep your job, pay the bills, but use the income you have left over to start buying real assets.
Not just stuff, like a fancy car.
Definitely not stuff that loses value. Real assets. The source lists examples: income-producing real estate, stocks, notes like IOUs where people pay you interest, intellectual property royalties, anything that actually generates income or grows in value.
And once you put money into that asset column,
it becomes like an employee working for you 24/7, generating more cash flow.
That makes sense. And that's how the rich buy luxuries, according to the source.
Yes, they buy them last. Once their assets are generating enough extra cash flow to cover it easily.
Whereas others buy the luxury first.
Often with debt, yeah. Trying to look rich before they actually are.
Okay, this framework is becoming clearer. Now, what about taxes and corporations? That seemed like a big piece too.
It is. The source touches on tax history, suggesting income tax ended up hitting the middle class hardest because the rich learned how to use the system.
How? Through corporations.
Largely, yes. Corporations started as a way to limit risk, like for shipping voyages. But they also offer tax advantages.
What kind of advantages?
The big one mentioned is the order things happen. An employee earns, gets taxed, then spends what's left.
Right. That's how it works for most people.
But a corporation owns, then it spends everything it legally can on legitimate business expenses first.
Things that are deductible.
Exactly, like maybe travel for meetings, car expenses, insurance, things like that. Then the corporation is taxed on whatever profit is left over.
So it pays expenses with pre-tax money, effectively.
Yeah. That's the idea presented. It's understanding this legal structure, using it legally, that's shown as a key way the rich build wealth faster. It's about knowing the rules.
It sounds like financial intelligence is more than just numbers then. The source mentions courage.
Yeah, boldness. It argues that in the real world, it's often the bold, not just the academically smart who get ahead. Fear and self-doubt hold people back.
So building your financial IQ gives you, what? Options.
Options, definitely. The ability to see opportunities others miss, adapt to changes, and just generally have more control over your financial destiny.
And that cash flow game is meant to help with that.
Seems so. It simulates managing money, buying assets, dealing with income and expenses.
Yeah.
Lets you practice getting out of the rat race, the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, onto the fast track where your assets pay your way.
Kind of like a flight simulator for finance. Make mistakes with play money.
Exactly. Learn without the real-world consequences. And there's that story the author tells about buying a foreclosed house.
Oh yeah, the inventing money part.
Right. Finds a cheap foreclosure, gets a small loan, quickly sells it to someone else using a promissory note, basically. The buyer owes him money over time.
So he gets his initial loan back right away.
Yep. Pays back the loan. His return on that initial bit of cash is effectively infinite, and he now has passive income flowing in from the buyer's payments.
Simple process, but you have to see it.
And have the guts to do it. That's the financial intelligence plus courage part. The source insists opportunities are everywhere, but you need the training to see them.
It's not gambling if you know what you're doing.
That's the claim. It's gambling if you don't know, if you're just hoping. Investing in your own financial education is key.
This also links back to the two dads, doesn't it? The advice on careers.
It does. Poor dad. Specialize. Get really good at one thing for job security.
Safe path.
Rich dad. Learn a little about a lot. And crucially, work with smart people. Hire experts like accountants and lawyers.
Why not specialize?
The risk, according to the source, is you become too dependent on one skill or industry. If things change, you're stuck. Your skills might not transfer.
Makes sense.
So Rich Dad's advice apparently was work to learn, not just to earn. Learn different skills.
Like what?
Sales and marketing are highlighted big time. Communication, handling rejection, skills that help you turn talent into actual income. Lots of talented people struggle because they can't sell themselves or their ideas.
Yeah, I can see that. And the sources also talk about overcoming obstacles, right? Internal
Oh,
ones.
yeah. Fear the sky is falling type, cynicism, that'll never work. Laziness, often disguised as being too busy.
Uh-huh.
Bad habits, like paying bills first and having nothing left to invest. And arrogance, thinking you know it all when you're actually ignorant.
How do you fight the bad habits, like paying bills first?
The strategy mentioned is radical. Pay yourself first, put money into your asset column first, even if it's tight.
But what about the bills?
The pressure from creditors, the source suggests, can actually motivate you, force you to be creative, find ways to make more money. Instead of just dipping into your savings or investments, it sounds intense.
Definitely intense. So the overall message is action.
Action, action, action. Stop doing what's not working. Find new ideas, make offers, learn by doing, treat it like a game. Action beats sitting on the sidelines.
So taking a wider view, this whole financial intelligence thing, it's about solving bigger problems too, like retirement, education.
Yes. Presenting an alternative to just work hard, save a bit, hope for the best. Using leverage, making money work for you, is positioned as a more powerful way to fund those big life goals.
And the cash flow quadrant book dives into different income types.
Right. Earned income from a job,
Yeah.
portfolio income like stocks, bonds, and passive income like real estate rentals, royalties. And the 4 quadrants people operate in: E for employee,
S for self-employed or specialist,
B for business owner owning systems and people work for you.
an I for investor money working for you.
And the key to freedom, according to that source, is converting your earned income into passive and portfolio income, which often have tax advantages, especially passive income.
The quadrant book seems to go deeper, though, beyond just money.
It does. It talks about finding your path, your purpose, and it critiques traditional schooling again for focusing mostly on the E and S quadrants, maybe using fear of failure and potentially stifling the B&I mindset.
So it's not just about technical skills, but emotional and spiritual growth.
Yeah, it compares making a real financial shift to overcoming something like an addiction. It requires addressing deeper fears and beliefs to make lasting change.
So the ultimate goal isn't just being rich.
It's framed as gaining choice. Financial freedom gives you the choice to work because you want to on things you value, not because you have to just to survive.
Okay, so let's try to pull the main threads together from these sources.
All right. The core contrast is clear. Poor dads work hard for money versus rich dads have money work for you.
And the key concepts are understanding assets versus liabilities.
Absolutely critical. Then, minding your own business, meaning build that asset column
Learn how money works. Gain financial intelligence.
and get your money working hard for you. It's a very different approach than the standard advice many of us grew up with.
And it's not about some get-rich-quick scheme, right? It's presented as a process.
Definitely a process. Learning, changing your mindset, taking consistent action over time, building assets brick by brick, essentially.
So a final thought to leave people with, based on all this.
I guess it comes down to looking at your own actions. Are the things you're doing daily with your time, with your money, actually moving you towards the life you want? Or, as the books might put it, are you maybe stuck in that rat race, running hard, but not really going anywhere different?
Something to think about. What are you learning, and where is that learning taking you?